So, hi, Nicole. Thank you for your time. I'm so happy to have you on SheCan. We met in New York. Remind me, was it this year or the year before?
In January of this year.
February, I think. Yeah, we met in New York and we immediately liked each other and talked a lot in the breaks. And you came to Shine to walk the talk, which is the WPP program for female leaders. And you are now thinking about maybe bringing the program to South America, which is amazing.
Yes.
So, my first question is really tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Well, so my name is Nicole Mestres. I'm from Puerto Rico, so I have Puerto Rican heritage, and I think I got to where I am today because I was raised by three very strong Puerto Rican women. My great grandma, my grandma, and my mom. We all the generations we lived together, and what I think where I got today is actually a funny story. So I was working at my previous company, but in my past I was a recruiter and a headhunter, and every person that I placed or talked to, I always stayed in contact with people. And one of my candidates from now maybe 12 years ago, I had placed them at a company and we always stayed in contact. Every once in a while I would reach out, ask them for advice. And we built kind of like this really strong professional relationship. He ended up becoming the CFO of YNR,
Mm-hmm.
what was Young and Rubicam pre the merger. And he called me and he's like, we have a position open. We're merging with this more kind of up and coming digital first agency called VML. And we think we need someone like you to help lead this integration in the South Cone of the United States. So that's how I got the job. And since then, I've been growing and growing within VML over the last 6 years.
So good networking, really good
Good
networking.
networking, really good networking, and really being purposeful with building relationships.
So you are definitely a people expert, and I want you to talk about what leaders need to learn today, especially with AI rising and Gen Z becoming more influential.
Yeah, I think that this is first of all, I think leaders need to really understand that we're in the middle of an industrial revolution, right? This is the time to try new things, get out of your comfort zone, and learn how to adapt to change. I think the Gen Z, when you think about Gen Z, they're between the ages of 20 and 29 and
Yeah.
are natives to working with artificial intelligence, chatbots, that technical enablement is like natural to them. So I think leaders really need to understand that they have a lot to learn about the way that they work day to day, how they manage their organization, automation, process improvement, because they're always looking for more efficient, shortcut ways to do things. And we, doing things like reverse mentoring programs, specifically around AI, because there's also still a lot that Gen Z has to or could learn. Um, from leaders and older generations, I think. But I do think that there is very specific things that we need to pay attention to that will come from Gen Z in order to keep our businesses growing.
I love that. So it's really beautiful, that we learn a little bit, that we learn from young people and young people learn from us. I mean, that's how it should be, really,
Yeah.
reciprocity rather than, yeah, yeah. Lovely.
They should be more people. We have to be more curious, and it becomes very difficult as you move up in the company because you think you're expected to know everything, or know the answers, or you want to be in control. And it becomes, I think right now, leaders, like, being curious is the best thing that you can do. Like, how did you do that? How did, even if it, not even from a sense of micromanagement, but when someone finishes a project, like, great, talk to me about how you came to this. What was the thought process? Who did you involve? What was the first step that you take? Like, really being curious is really important right now.
Yeah, brilliant. I like it. So, what are your main learnings or takeaway about people development to date? So, you already said we are in an industrial revolution again, which is probably means a lot of opportunity. But what else?
I think people development, we traditionally see it as a ladder. And I think right now it's definitely a lattice. Like you can leap, you can hop, you can skip, you can jump, you can go side to side, you can take a step back, you can take a step forward. And all that requires different kind of support and development in a people perspective. And you're still learning new things. You're still dealing with change management. You're still transitioning, being challenged. And I think that most companies still are thinking of people development from a very traditional way, like the 9 box, for example, like measuring talent by potential and performance. I think, okay, I'm not a big fan of the 9 box. I think there's a lot of room for bias, but I think if we're going to use that as an example, who's to say those axes are potential and performance? What if they're like human centric skills and creative problem solving, right? I think the way that we identify high performers, the way that we define potential and the way that we develop people is changing and different. And we need to become a little bit more agile to support that type of development in people.
And also, what I'm hearing from, funny enough, my children who are not Gen Z, but is as well that they like what you just described. You know, they don't want to go up the ladder like their parents. They
Right.
like a tree. You know, they like to hop from branch to branch, and also some of them value money and some of them don't. Some of them say,
Yeah.
I don't want to work as hard as you do. I want to see my kids more. I want to, it's not all about work, work, work. And, I think we need to rethink, which is so nice because our vision was always to make business more human. And I
Yeah.
think the corporate world is actually becoming a more human place, which I really love. Now, what are your current challenges? I mean, you already started, but I mean, what keeps you awake at night, or what are your challenges right now?
I think that the biggest challenge that we have is like keeping people in the story
Mm-hmm.
um, versus just having them hear about things that are happening or changes that are happening. I think we we tend to do that through these types of transformations. Like, what does this mean for people? How people are the consumers, people are the buyers, people are still the strategists, the big thinkers, the creative problem solving, the ones that build relationships with your clients, and those things are foundational. So I think that is the biggest challenge that we have right now, is like, as we're looking to automate processes, become more efficient, use AI more, like, how are we keeping people in the story?
And how
Is
do we keep them engaged as humans, you mean? Or
Yeah, how do we keep them engaged as humans? How do we teach them it's so funny that we have to call them that, but like human centric skills, which for me is like creative problem solving, relationship building, even negotiation, right? AI cannot negotiate for us the way that we can, or or decide what's a good deal, what's not a good deal, or it's, and we're losing those skills more and more.
no, that's
So we have to keep people in the story.
yeah, it's interesting because I just designed a program for TikTok and I put listening skills in again. And that's something I did 20 years ago. And it made me laugh. I have how to have difficult conversation, listening, ego states. I mean, the burn ego states, which is a long time. But
Yeah.
but I mean, I suddenly thought, you know what? That's really important. What's your leading from behind, from the side, forward, all of that. Which we really train since a long time. But weirdly, I think, as you say, these human-centric skills become more important. And I'm actually looking at your platform on Wednesday to see what they're offering around that because I want to see
Oh,
people
good,
learning
good.
one-to-one. Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting.
I think that
Now,
that
yeah.
one of the best books that I've read most recently was by David Brooks, How to See a Person.
Nice. How to See a
And
Person by
how
David
to
Brooks. I'm
see
saying
a
it again.
person.
Hmm?
And it was things that maybe were common sense at one point. And how to make a person feel seen deeply,
Yeah.
and how we have lost that skill. And it's hard. It's very hard to execute some of the things that he talks about in the book. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's
Yeah, that's always
amazing.
good. We love a little book tip for our users. Now, what are you most proud of, Nicole?
I'm most proud of my. So I created and launched, and then we're entering now our third year of a very successful career acceleration program for women in creative. It's called Lideraz. The word comes because in Spanish and Portuguese, leader doesn't have a female connotation, like you know,
Yeah, I get
so
it.
we made a little twist to it. I think it's been a great opportunity to focus on really accelerating their careers in a way where they're being stretched, they're getting access to opportunities and events that some of them have been working in the creative industry for 15 years and never have been able to present their own work in Cannes or their own work in a New York festival of creative, or even to a global leader. It's always other people presenting their ideas and their work. So it's really what it's about. And honestly, it's like, it makes me proud because it has good results, but it's really fulfilling and a lot of work. But if that's like what I leave behind, I'm okay with that.
Well, we just had that with Lindsay Patterson with Walk the Talk. No,
Yeah,
you know.
I'm good. We're gonna definitely we're gonna miss her, but we're excited for
Yeah, but we are
Marie.
continuing the work, the good work. We all promised
Yeah.
that to her. Great. So, what would you like our listeners to take away from this interview? Is there anything else you wanna leave them with?
I think one thing is some of the things we talked about being curious, about knowing how to see people, how AI is going to augment a lot of our work so that we can have more time to focus on these things. And I really want them to take away that just being purposeful and building relationships throughout your career is extremely important. You never know where you're going to end up or where that next opportunity is going to come from.
Well, we talked about that. No, we talked about empathy as a leadership skill.
Yes.
And what about the one message for the world right now? What would that be?
I would say don't wait for a seat at the table, kind of. I would say, pitch your ideas at work, raise your hand,
Hmm.
speak your ideas to anyone that will listen to you, and then just put chairs at your own table, and other people will come and sit down.
I
Trust me.
love that. I love that. And also, I think, I see that with the younger generation, and I've talked to Steph, the founder of SheCan as well about that. Allow yourself to make mistakes. You learn so much more from your mistakes than your successes, because success you just expect it and then it happens and you kind of knew. Whereas mistakes is something you will never forget. So also be not afraid to, like we say, it's now not a ladder anymore, it's a tree. But don't
Yep.
be afraid to jump on that branch. And if the branch is not right for you, you jump on another one. But I think experience is what you want, especially young people, and not being worried about making the wrong move. You
Yeah.
might make the wrong move, you might get
My
fired, but a lot of
grandma,
people learn a lot from that.
when I was younger, my grandma used to always tell us, like, don't wait to be chosen.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Choose yourself. Don't wait to be chosen, whether it was we were trying out for the volleyball team, or, we wanted to volunteer in something, or we felt like, you know, I remember I had a calculus teacher that marked something wrong on my test. And I knew it was right, and I got home and I was taught my grandma was like, well, why don't you just go up to him? He's a human being, in a very respectful way, help to ask him to help you understand where, because you don't see it. And it ended up that the professor had marked something wrong that was right, and I was right. And that just like I think that's what I would tell people. I would say, like, right now there's a lot of things going on in the world, and there's a lot of noise and distractions, and misinformation
Yeah.
and change, and it's very competitive, and there's some sort of invisible race. So no one's going to have time to come and choose you. You're going to have to choose yourself.
You know what my grandmother always said? She said, oh, and my mom as well, well, they won't ring the doorbell. They said, don't ring the doorbell. So they
Yes.
always said, go out there and do it. Try it out. Go out there. But they won't,
Yes.
so, you cannot sit here and moan or sit here and go, oh, poor me. You have to go out there and try. Well,
Yep.
so
You do. You
listen, so your grandma was in South America, mine was in Germany, you see, and they're saying the same thing.
and just in different ways. There's not, they don't make them like that anymore.
I love it. No, we
They
will
do
say
that.
good things to our kids. So thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate your time, and I can't wait to
Absolutely.
come to Bogota or wherever we will do this program. Maybe next year. That will be so exciting. So I thank you for your time and wish you a lovely day.
Thank you. I look forward to being a part of the SheCan community, and thank you so much for this space.
You're welcome.